If you love the West Tigers as much as we do, and that's an awful lot, you're welcome to come and join us in our discussions on the West Tigers podcast forum. Our forum is the #1 forum for West Tigers fans to talk everything West Tigers. westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon. The West Tigers podcast, and it is a post-victory edition of the podcast, recording a little bit later, recording on Monday night. The West Tigers playing on Sunday afternoon. We're all a little bit, we thought we'd sleep on the win against the Knights and regroup and do the podcast on Monday night, but it's kind of worked out okay in a bad sort of way, in that we've had a really massive story break. I'm sure everybody knows it. It's certainly on the socials and it's certainly in the newspapers, and that is in regards to the future of Lachlan Galvin. So we're going to just put the discussion on the Knights game on the back burner for the moment and launch straight into the news in regards to Galvin. Eddie, Steve and Gary are here, and I'm looking forward to hearing their opinions about what unfolded today. I'll start with Eddie. Eddie, surprised? What comes to mind when you think about how things have unfolded?
No, I'm not surprised, Joel, sadly. Like, if I was to use the one word for this rather than the game, I'd say predictable. Because, like, what's really changed? Like, I think he had 2 release requests before he strapped on a boot. He requested a release last year. Now, he hasn't requested a release yet this year, but I'm not surprised that this is the outcome. The only surprise, Joel, and it's probably caught him off guard and his manager, is the way Richo has handled it. Yeah, well, I was asked the question by Steve at that ambush event yesterday in regards to Richo, and I made the point that he's a bulldozer. Steve, you've got to say that Richo has got on the front foot with this. He's not mucking around. We kind of worked out what the lay of the land was and went straight on the front foot.
Yeah, well, he's taken all speculation out of the discussion, really, hasn't he? He's just said, well, you're not going to use us as an opportunity to try to up Galvin's price over the next 12 months. He's now no longer on our radar, as in West Tigers, so it's up to other clubs to come up with a figure. So there'll be no back and forth trying to up his price. And, based on the history, I agree with Eddie, it is a little bit predictable, but it's also, if we're coming up with words for it, it's also just exceptionally disappointing, really, from no matter which way you look at it.
Gary, there's been a lot of discussion about will he, won't he. I guess it is a blessing in a way that it's for all intents and purposes, as far as the West Tigers are concerned, although there is going to still be a continuing discussion about where he plays and will he get a release and do we trade him for somebody else. But I'm sort of glad to know. It kind of feels a little bit like, when you break up in a toxic relationship and you break up, like, it still hurts, but I kind of feel a little bit of a sense of relief. As Steve said, and Eddie said, like, this guy's been asking for releases. It's the continuation of some pretty poor form from him and his manager, I would suggest.
I think for me, that's the big benefit to take out of it, is we can start planning now instead of this being put on the back burner until November. It gives us an extra 8-9 months to consider what our next step is and to put plans in motion for when he does leave, whether that's at the end of 2026 or it happens earlier through us organising a trade or something along those lines. But for me, I do like that Richo brought this to a head. I had been considering myself that if he didn't accept this offer, whether you'd let him go negotiate with other clubs and then come back to you. Well, Richo skipped that step today. He just basically said that there is no offer. They didn't want to look at the offer that we put in place, so he won't be here after next season. And I think that is best for the West Tigers. If it was clear he wasn't going to be here in the long term, then this gives us an opportunity to plan for what our club looks like after he leaves. I do agree with Steve. Like, on the back of a goodish win yesterday, us being at 50% for the year, having this news come out today, for a fan base that's been through this story time and time again in the past, it is a really tough pill to swallow for the fan base, and I found it a difficult one to kind of be happy about. Like, it's very disappointing to see him leave.
You think, Joel, like it's Richo's been in this game forever. Like, it's a bit of a calculated risk, the tactic, like, because it sort of puts it puts the real heat on Galvin for one, but it puts heat on Benji and that, because it's just going to be a circus the next month in terms of our performances. Maybe he feels like there's just no hope. Maybe there is still some hope because last year, like when he requested a release, it sort of actually worked against him in a way, because a lot of the big dogs in the media, Andrew Johnson, said, "What's going on here?" And I've only caught snip of it today. I've been trying to avoid it because I went through it last year, and I sort of thought that's boring, all this stuff. But is there a chance you think the relationship could be repaired throughout the time, or do you think Richo's just trying to get ahead of the narrative, control the narrative, and maybe put the acid back on their camp?
Well, it sounds to me like there has been a falling out between Benji and Galvin, and there are some politics and there's some tension between those two. So I don't know how that can be repaired. The report that I read, I think it was the Sydney Morning Herald report today, was talking about that the reason, or one of the primary reasons why Galvin is moving on, is he believes his game can't go to another level under Benji Marshall. Now, I don't know how you can pick someone who believes that about your coaching. I think this is a little bit still to play out here, and I think that I would feel very uncomfortable if I was Benji picking someone over somebody who maybe wants to be at the club, like a Latu Fainu, when this guy has basically said, I don't have any faith in your coaching. Steve's got a point, and then we'll throw it to Gary.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate a little bit on when I said it was disappointing, and you've sort of covered it a little bit. But I reckon it's just disappointing from so many angles, right? It's going to be easy to get angry as fans and those who were involved so passionately with our club. But it's just disappointing for everyone, I think it's disappointing for our club because we're finally on the up. I think we're finally proving that we're heading in the right direction in a big way. So it's disappointing from that perspective. It's disappointing for Galvin too, because he probably doesn't understand it yet, I don't reckon. And it's a pity he doesn't have someone in his ear teaching him this stuff. But he could have formed such a legacy. Andrew John said it. He could have been the guy to lead the Tigers the next 10 years. And that would have been something so special for him. And he's thrown it away, really. So it's disappointing for him. But on your point, Joel, the other thing is, to me, it's just not workable. Right? Like to say he's going to stay till the end of next season, that's just not going to happen. If there is conflict, like we've got Fanua Pole putting out tweets or whatever they are today, that seemingly were agitating against Galvin. There's rumours that there's been a blow up. There's definitely a mark against Benji from somewhere, whether it's from Galvin or from his management. But if it's from his management, it's from Galvin. Right? Galvin employs the management. So it's from his management, it's from him. And I don't know how Galvin can go into a dressing room tomorrow or the training paddock tomorrow and look Benji Marshall, who's given him so much opportunity, given him his start. I don't know how he can go in there and look him in the eye after what's come out in the press today, if in fact that's true. So disappointing.
For me, Steve, that's the most disappointing part of it for me, is what appears to be the behaviour of his management, releasing stories about the coach to the media. That, for me, is a real low act. You have a 19-year-old who I don't think at any other club gets his debut last year. I don't think under any other coach gets his debut. And then to have that player's management, and if that's where it's come from, his management, that's put out into the media that he's not happy with the coaching, I think that's a real low act towards the guy that gave you a debut when probably no one else does. And for me, that's the thing. I understand if he wants to go on and leave and go to another club, But this is a real classless way to do it if that story has come from the management, and I don't see where else it would have come from. That's a real low act and a real classless way to get out of a club. Sure, go on, move on at the end of your contract to another club, but do it with a little bit of class.
I don't know if I can go that far, Gary. I know what you're saying, like Steve's saying, if it's coming from his manager, it's coming from him, but he's a 19-year-old kid, and I saw him interviewed last year, and like to Steve's point, I don't really think he gets it. And there's clear, like, this beef between this manager and the club, mate. Like this has been going on for years. He ripped the club apart with Mitchell, Moses, Tedesco, players that were older, probably not much older than Lockie Galvin at the time. It's clear that Benji and Isaac Moses don't get on. Like this, I just think this has been coming forever, and probably the curveball in the situation, like Richo could have maybe diffused it and said, oh, let's just wait till November, and that would have made headlines, but it wouldn't have been the potential firecracker that this is, because I agree with Steve. There's no way he's going to be here in 20 months' time if this is the situation. I still think it's, he's probably going to be here definitely in the short term for the rest of, next 6 weeks, next season, this season. But I don't know. I still think, Gary, that I want to judge him more on his performances and when he's directly spoken to, rather than planted media stories, whether they're planted or not from Chalmers or Reed or whatever, because otherwise I think we'll drive ourselves crazy if we go off what those blokes are saying.
For me, when you hire a manager, you're hiring someone to speak on your behalf. You're hiring someone to go in and meet with club bosses, and they are speaking for your voice. And whether it's Lockie or his family, because he would have signed this contract when he was a minor with Isaac Moses' company, but whether it's he or his family have come up with that arrangement for Moses to be his manager, what you're doing in that relationship is you're giving that person the power to speak on your behalf. They come back to you and talk to you about how the negotiations are going, but they're the one negotiating on your behalf. They're the ones speaking on your behalf. And if those stories are coming from the manager and getting into the media, then they're doing that on your behalf. They're doing that with your voice. And for me, players need to be really careful in that situation, because that's the power you're giving a manager. That's why you sign to a manager, because they're better at negotiating, they're better at controlling these sort of things, but you're giving them your voice in this situation. And yes, he's a young guy, but it's not just on him, it's on his family who are advising him as well. Once you give that power to someone, you have to live and die by some of the things they do on your behalf. And yes, I'm going to judge him on how his next month of football goes, but this is a classless act from his management team. And yes, that may be a little bit removed from him, but he's given them the permission to act on his behalf.
Eddie, I love your benefit of the doubt, and I love that you're a glass half full kind of guy, as much as you say that you're not.
For once.
Because as soon as I heard the reports that he was spotted having an afternoon tea with Mitch Moses, then I started to get concerned. And I think how this is going to play out. Remember Mitch Moses, what he did to the West Tigers? This will play out in such a way that he will go and he will partner Mitch Moses at the Eels. You can bank on it for sure. And they've got the money from the Dylan Brown thing, Gary.
And for me, if this story, and I'll keep saying if this story has come from his management, really there's only one reason you're putting that into the media, and that is to make the situation
untenable
for the Tigers are keeping him at the club for this year and next more difficult.
Yeah.
So I think that story, I can only assume, is the start of the attempt to kind of worm his management to worm him out of the club.
But Gary, like I'm not defending his management for a second, but wouldn't that have been in response to what Richo did today? They probably didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but what do you expect if you refuse to look at a contract that's tabled? Like, they refuse to review the contract. What option does the West Tigers have in that situation other than to move on and look elsewhere? If you're not even going to take the time to look over a contract that's been presented to you from the club that you're currently with, then I don't think you give the club any other option but to move on.
Especially when you know in the halls of Concord that he's had a falling out or he's got concerns about Benji. There's been a conversation, as was reported. There's more milieu here than what's being reported in in the newspapers. And the other thing too, Eddie, is that I don't think Richo's that unpredictable. Like, I want to talk about the crocodile roll in a moment, but like you can sort of see the way Richo does business. He's been doing it for a long time. Steve?
Just to your point that you started to get worried when you heard about Mitchell Moses having coffee with him. I started to get worried the minute Phil Gould opened his mouth and started waxing lyrical about the guy. And I just thought, what's Gould up to here? Because Gould has been overflowing in his praise for Galvin, and it has been reported, and I have no idea how valid this is, but it's been reported that Gould met with Galvin as well, and they've had a discussion. Now, I think Parramatta are probably the favourites. I think a lot of good judges are saying that. But while Gould is in the mix, and he is, I wouldn't rule out Canterbury. And from a football perspective, as far as a development perspective, Canterbury makes a lot more sense to me than Parramatta does. Mm. Maybe not from a management link perspective, but from a football growth perspective, wouldn't be a bad place to go.
Yeah, when you look at those management links, though, to me, it's Parramatta and it's Manly. Because if you have a look at what Moses usually does, and he's done it at a number of clubs, is he likes to link players up with coaches he manages. And there's a coach over at Manly, in Anthony Seibold, who was managed by Moses. But it also wouldn't surprise me Parramatta trying to look after Mitchell Moses and shore up his position at Parramatta and make that a stronger team as well. That's kind of how Moses operates. So my prediction at this point would be one of Manly or Parramatta, just because of those managerial links and not so much the football.
Now, this is perhaps a really naive comment and quite an uneducated comment, but surely with all this manipulating that's going on, because that's what it is, it's managers getting in and manipulating, moving players like chess pieces around to strengthen the clubs where they've got strongest ties. So it's absolute manipulation. And even though you as the player, you employ the agent, what Gary says is right. Most players, I imagine, or some at least, would sign with their manager and then just let their manager do their thing and would be blissfully unaware. But surely at some stage, the NRL need to have a good look at this and see what can be done to unravel some of the disasters that are happening. Like our club could be decimated again. That's exaggerating at this stage, I know. But what's happened today is not good for our club. It's not good for the game. And I think it falls under the category of manager manipulation. I don't know what the NRL can do. I don't even know if they look at it. But I think they should.
So Isaac Moses has been suspended, had his accreditation suspended in the past for his dealings.
And he continued. Yeah. He did not lose pace, mate.
Correct, because he employs managers under him.
Yeah.
And Lockie Galvin isn't managed directly by Isaac Moses either. He has a manager who is below Isaac Moses, who is his everyday manager, but it's part of the Isaac Moses company that manages them. But all you got to do is have a look at his history. He ripped the guts out of the Tigers back when we had Tedesco, Woods, Moses, and Brooks all under his management. He then went up and had his fingers all in up at Brisbane when Seibold was up at Brisbane, and that turned into a real mess as well. So I think it is definitely something the NRL should be at least aware of, is his history and the damage he has caused at multiple clubs now. And I don't think this is going to be as drastic as what happened with the so-called Big Four, because there's only two other players at our club managed by Mitchell Moses, Isaac Moses' company. Mm. But there's no doubt that this has torn a little bit of a hole, at least, into our club. And I think we're just lucky that we have a backup underneath, a plan B so readily available in Latu Fainu, who is already at the club.
I love your optimism, Steve, but this is not a game of gentlemen and not a game of honour, unfortunately. I think that's the truth of it. I mean, the crocodile roll, Eddie. Richo, he does love to make a big statement, and he takes things from 0 to 100. It's a little bit like get on the bus or you're out, is what Ivan did with the big 3 or 4 back in the day. Was that 2017, 2018? Seems like a lifetime ago now. How does Lachlan Galvin stay part of the West Tigers if he's not up for the crocodile role? And by the sounds of it, you'd say his actions show that he's not.
I disagree with that his actions show that he's not. If he starts doing what Mitchell Moses did and not putting him in the game, I'll change my opinion.
He had a shocker on Sunday night.
I disagree with that. I don't think he had a shocker. I think he had a typical Lockie Galvin game where he's extremely involved. Some was good, some was bad. But a shocker to me would be not tackling someone on the try line or not getting involved. So
that might be this week.
Yeah, I don't know about that, mate. Like I just think it's, unfortunately, it's. I don't want to sound like a dinosaur, but look, I'm not saying a lot of kids are like this, but it's sort of the way games. Like but he'll think, what does he owe us? Okay, Benji gave me my debut. He'll think, okay, I was good enough for my debut. I want to go to another club. You know, like it's all well and good us getting worked up and saying this is a disgrace and Benji gave me an opportunity, but this has just been coming for 18 months, especially when you look at his manager and what he did last time. And you know, he also looks. Gary said he only manages 3 players, but I think one of them's Jareen Buller. So look out there. Like, go on, Joel.
I guess the question is when it becomes untenable, is what I'm saying. And also, the fact is that if he has... See, you know, it's all well and good to say, well, what should the club do? But you can kind of see with his history of asking for releases that I don't think there's any way that Lachlan Galvin has the aptitude to be able to stick it out at West Tigers till the end of 2026. I think this is going to be solved in the short term.
If I was putting a bet on it right now, and you know, life was on the line, I'd say he's not going to be here at the end of next season or before the end of next season. But in the short term, Joel, we've got to win games. Benji Marshall's got to win games to keep his job. So fans throwing the toys out and saying, let's start, you know, Adam Dewey at 5'8" this week because Lockie Galvin has not decided not to extend his contract, I think it's a little bit extreme. But Benji's the coach. He's the man who'll know what's going on at training, how he is around the group, how well he's respected around the senior players. Jerome, they'll know that more than I do. We're guessing.
Yeah.
I didn't see any indication that the boys were off them on Sunday, both in the way he celebrated tries and the way he played. But that can change quickly because this story paints him in a dark light. And if he takes that the wrong way and throws the toys out like Mitchell Moses does, this could escalate very quickly.
Yeah.
But I don't know yet. I don't know.
I expect he'll be picked at 6 tomorrow. I expect he'll play in 6 on Monday. But it wouldn't surprise me in the least if Benji Marshall didn't like those articles that came out today and decided that I can't pick a player who doesn't believe in my coaching, who doesn't respect what I've done for them. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, I would be still picking him at 6. I'd be still playing him at 6. But when Latu comes back, there was conversations we were having 2 weeks ago about how to get both Latu and Galvin into the side, because that's our best 17. Now, how you do that now is you move Galvin from 6 and you play Latu at 6, in my opinion. You don't drop him. He stays in the side. He stays in the 13, and you play him in the centres or you play him elsewhere. But for me, to get them both into the side, you move Galvin from 6 now so that we can have both those players. Once Latu is fit and healthy and whether he's got to spend some time coming back through New South Wales Cup, once he's ready for first grade, that would be my plan. That's when I'd be looking at doing something else with Lockie Galvin.
Yeah, I just want to talk to that a little bit. I've flipped and flopped all day.
Yeah, you argued with me about it earlier today.
I argue with Gary, then I agree with him, and I argued again. And, you know, I think with all things being equal, if the club, if the football group can accept what's happened and move forward, and there is no animosity and there's no disruption to training and game preparation, then it's really simple. We're in the top 8. We're in contention for a semi-final berth this year. We pick our best 17. Now that may be that we put Latu Fano at 5'8" and move Lockie Galvin to the centres. If that is what's best to win football games and that is the best 17 we can put on the paddock. But if we're playing a team and it's decided that the best option is to have Lockie Galvin at 6 whilst he's still contracted with us and everything else is humming, then you've got to pick your best player in the position where he's going to be most damaging or most influential. So what I'm saying, I suppose, is if everyone's doing their job and everyone's got on with it and everyone's mature enough to handle it, then it's not about where Galvin is in 18 months' time. It's about the best 17 for this weekend.
That's the thing, Gary. Like, I mean, it was my natural reaction first off as well to say, well, let's stop this kid's development and let's develop in Latu, because one, we've got to re-sign him long term, and he's the obvious talented replacement to go into Galvin's spot. But let's say he's out for a month with a thumb injury, and let's say we beat Parramatta, then we beat Cronulla at Leichhardt Oval, then we beat St George at Magic Round, and we're 6-3. They're not going to change the team. Like, it'll all depend on how he plays. Like, if he comes and turns his toes up and things go to shit, it'll speak for itself. But I don't think Benji will be dropping him, even if he is. I think it'll be water off a duck's back. Like, even those comments about not rating the coach, like, they've just got to come up for an excuse why he doesn't want to be here. And that's like an obvious one to say, because Benji's been a 1-year coach. So I don't know.
It also allows them to agitate to get him out of the club.
Yeah.
It creates attention to get him out of the club.
And that's the thing we don't know, is how he will react to this, because this is going to blow up, and it doesn't paint him in the best light. And he's 19 years old, and he's shown a bit of a history of, I don't want to attack his character, but he's shown a history of having, potentially selfish. And if he turns his toes up, that'll show on the field. If it doesn't show on the field and we win our next 2 or 3, I don't think he's going to be changing position.
Look, I'm basing on what I've seen in the football team so far. I'm not predicting what's happening over the next 3 weeks. But right now, if you're making that decision based off the form we've seen, my belief is that Latu Fainu, having both Latu Fainu and Lachlan Galvin in our top 17, in our top 13 to be honest, is best for the club. That's the best side we can put on the field, based on the football I've seen so far this year. Now, yes, that may change in 3 weeks' time if we go on a run and Lachlan Galvin absolutely destroys these sides over the next 3 weeks. But at this point in time, from what I've seen, our best 13 would have.
But you're specifically saying basically move Latu to 6 because Galvin's leaving, aren't you? Really?
Look, I would have been more prone to keep Galvin at 6 if he was staying, 100%. He is your future 5'8". You're building your club around his decision to stay. So part of it is, and I know Steve says you pick the best side, but part of it is developing the guy who's going to be playing there for the next. Like if Lockie Galvin's gone next year, which both you guys have suggested is probably likely to happen, then I want that combination between Latu Fainu and Jerome Luai firing. The combination between Galvin and Luai only helps us for this year. So my decisions are all around football. I think it's best that we get them both onto the field in the same side. I wouldn't be dropping him. I'd be picking him every single week. He'd be in my starting side every single week. But right now, I don't have to pander to a guy who probably would have got upset during contract negotiations if we moved him from the 6.
So I can go along with most of that. And I think there's an argument. Like I've got written down here for when we talk about the game later that, of negatives from the weekend was our halves pairing. Right? And I had that written down before any of this happened.
Our 9, 7 and 6 were terrible.
Yeah,
well,
Luai and Galvin are yet to click for whatever reason. Maybe what transpired today may give us some insight as to why they're not clicking as well as they should. I don't know. That's just a guess, right? But I agree. Like if there is an argument to say, based on this year, that Latu Fainu could be a better option at 6 and move Galvin elsewhere in the team, purely based on the football we've seen. But where I can't agree with you, Gary, is where you start to say preparing for the future. Not at the moment. Not while we're. I know you didn't use those words.
No. I 100% think that should be something we're doing. Like
So I'd say not while we are having a possibility of making the top 8 for the first time in a decade.
If I thought the difference was going from having Lockie Galvin playing at 5'8" to having what we saw from Bud Sutherland at 5'8" last year, I agree with you 100%. I don't think the difference between Latu Fainu and Lachlan Galvin at this point from what we're seeing this year would mean that I don't move him to make room for... And mate, I wanted Galvin to stay. I wanted him to be our 5'8" for the next 10 years. But that's not happening. So Latu Fainu I don't think is a big enough downgrade for me just to go, oh, well, we'll keep Lockie Galvin there. Because I think Latu Fainu has a lot of potential, was a gun coming through the junior grades. I think he's been held back by injury. And I think he has a lot to offer the club. And yes, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that none of it's sour grapes that he's leaving, because of course some of it is. I'm incredibly disappointed that he's leaving, but I still think we have a strong halves pairing with Latu Fainu and Jerome Luai playing together.
I know I was out on, was driving home from the club actually on Sunday, and I noticed it was a full moon. And I thought to myself, full moon, that's a very, very pretty moon. And now I'm sitting here on a Monday night and I'm agreeing with Gary, and I'm thinking to myself, it must be the full moon, because, as I've got older, and, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I've got more hard line, and I think we need to play really, really hard ball and protect our club and put our club first mentality. And I know that you're going to come back and say, yeah, but we'll ruin our chances of making the finals this year. I don't think that Galvin is going to make that much difference there. And if there's a chance that we could trade him for something that we actually need, because we need something other than somebody who runs left to right and kicks every time we get in the 20 metre with a grubber, it's so predictable. I know I'm beating up on him because I'm really annoyed with him.
A couple of cheap shots there, Joel.
But I've been saying this. The Australian Prime Minister's 13. He was horrible in that game. He was horrible in the trial matches. He had a terrible game in Newcastle. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have potential. But what I'm saying is that we need to protect this club, and we need to be club first, and we need to be on the front foot, because remember Gary Eddie in episode 1, I said I'm sick of this club being pushed around, and this is the club being pushed around, and Richo won't let it happen. And I wouldn't be surprised if this story continues to develop, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lachlan Galvin never wears a West Tigers jersey again. That's how hot I think this story is. Gary.
My last 2 points on it is the other thing I'll say about playing Latu, what message do you send to Latu Fainu if you keep playing Lachlan Galvin over him?
You got to back the guy that wants to be here, 100%. Stuff him.
Yeah. What message are you sending to the guy that you're probably banking on being your 5'8" in the next season, the year after?
I know. Sorry, I know, Joel. It's totally different examples, but what's stopping Manly then saying Cherry Evans, you can play reserve grade? He doesn't want to be there next year.
But he's won a premiership with them. He's given him, 12, 13 years of service. And there are other...
He doesn't want to be there next year.
But there's other factors in that, and I'm sure that...
Wayne Bennett did it to Justin Hodges. Wayne Bennett, as soon as Justin Hodges signed with the Roosters...
What message are you giving Latu Fainu if you give him the 6 jersey because you got the shits with Galvin? He hasn't earned it.
But what if Galvin had come out...
You don't think he's earned a shot?
I actually do think he's starting to show that. Right, I think we're getting a bit carried away with a 10-metre dash to score a try. I think we're a little bit. He's done a couple of good things. I think he's still got a long way to go. Latu, he's amazing talent, but I'm not sure he's shown a lot of it yet. But I just think he's like anyone else. He's got to earn it, and he's earning it. We're starting to say, everyone's starting to say he should be in the 17. Got to put him in the 17 somewhere. Got to find a spot. That's sending the right message to him, giving him a Guernsey and saying, mate, you've worked hard for this and you've pushed someone out because you're playing good football.
But Benji was talking about that 2 weeks ago, that he's got to find a spot for him. Where's that spot?
Yeah, nothing comes to mind.
I'd consider playing him at lock. And then if Galvin, like I said, Gary, if Galvin turns his toes up and we start losing games and he's not putting in, then make the switch. But I'm glad Joel's not coaching the team this weekend, because he wouldn't have Galvin in the 17 at all.
But how has Galvin showed us any respect, Eddie? How has Galvin, if Galvin came out and said, look, I've thought about it. I just don't want to be at the West Tigers. Like, there's nothing personal. I'm going to commit and really do my best for the club for the next 18 months. But he's
who's to say he won't come out
honour.
and say that?
Who's
to say he won't come out and say that?
But he certainly let the story have a whole lot of oxygen today. So.
Yeah, but I mean the media circus and stuff, mate. I think it seriously. I'm not. Sounds like I'm defending the kid all the time, but I think last time he was pretty rattled by it all, and every time he stepped on the field for me, he's put in. And until I see otherwise, I'm not just going to drop him to reserve grade.
So you don't think that story's come from his management today about Benji can't coach?
No, I do think it, but I don't think it's got anything to do with his performances on the weekend.
But it's bigger than that. It's like saying, well, you got on social media and you said your boss was a XYZ, but you're a hard worker. Well, you're still going to get sacked. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't have it both ways, and I think we've got to be club first, Steve.
It's Jareem Buller's manager as well, Gary. Should we drop him because Isaac Motors is his manager?
That's not the issue.
But he's not speaking on Dream's behalf at this point in time. He's speaking on Lockie Galvin's behalf.
Sorry, but I had my hand up.
Go, Steve.
We're arguing, Steve.
The floor is yours.
You've got to force your way in.
Everybody shut up and let Steve talk.
No, now I've forgotten what I was going to say. No, it's multiple levels, right? Like, you don't necessarily solve the problem of the media by dropping Lachlan Galvin, right? Like there's different problems that all need to be solved independently.
You make that situation worse if you drop him.
Of each other, right? Like, yeah, the media, what's going on with the media and all, the fact that a certain journalist is tied to a certain manager and, he drops stories for him and all this sort of garbage that goes on in our game that's been going on forever. Yeah, that's going to happen regardless. I think you've just got to, at the end of the day, you've got to circle the wagons, get in the football group, and they've got to work out, can Lachlan Galvin play with us for the rest of this year? Firstly, forget about next year till next year, right? Do the senior players want him? Do the rest of the squad want him? Does the coach want him? And if they do, then the next question is he capable of handling the crap he's going to cop? Because, mate, he's going to cop it on the weekend. I'll stick my hand up. He's not going to cop it from me. I don't get into that sort of stuff, but he's going to cop it big time.
No, you just get into the touches, mate.
If the answer to all those questions is yes, the players want him, the coach is happy with him, and he can handle it, then we keep going. But if any of that can't be answered with a yes, then I think you're right, Joel. But I reckon it's a big call saying he's not going to be picked tomorrow. That's huge, mate.
I agree, Steve. You play him at centre once all those things are a yes.
I don't even know what I said.
Eddie's got the going to have the Neville Chamberlain Award for this week's edition of the pod. Do you know the historical reference to
You're
Neville
dating
Chamberlain?
yourself here, Joel.
Hey?
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know the reference. No.
I'm going to go over and talk peace with Adolf. He's not such a bad guy after all. We should give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's just wait and see. Well, there's too much history there for me. I think this is explosive, Steve.
I'm just saying we need to go video, mate, because we're all here with smiles on our faces, and Eddie is really groucho today. He's got a scowl on his face.
What do you mean today? It's not just today.
Hey, I'm the one who gets criticised for bagging the players. I'm supporting the players, not.
Yeah, you should be supporting the club.
Well, I'm supporting the club.
Stuff bloody Lachlan Galvin. Why are you loyal to him? You've been following this club for half your life.
Mate. I want to win games.
It's because of he called him a superstar after 10 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to win games on the weekend. So, Joel, you'd play who at 5'8" on the weekend? Adam Dewey?
Eddie found him. That's
No, Joel, I'm asking you a question. Who would you play at 5'8" on the weekend?
Yeah, I'd play Adam Dewey at 5'8".
Okay.
Nathan's available. Do it. Club first.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Club first. What's the difference? You make the finals 13 years, 14 years. What's the difference?
It's a huge difference. It's a huge difference. No. This is the first year
you've got to stand up for the club.
Competitive in years. And you're just saying, oh, no, because a 19-year-old wants to leave, let's throw the toys out the cot and let's drop him.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that there's a pretty good chance that he'll throw the toys out of the cot. Yeah?
I want to wait and see on that one.
Fair enough.
I want to wait and see.
I do have to say, I was in a really bad mood today after all this Galvin news, but watching you guys argue has probably cheered me up. I'm in a really good mood now. Thanks, guys.
Yep. I'd agree with you, Eddie, but then we'd both be wrong. We hope you're enjoying this edition of the West Tigers podcast. Don't forget, if you agree or disagree, we'd love to hear your comments and thoughts on the West Tigers podcast forum. It's free to join and you can contribute directly to the podcast on the forum. Just head to westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
Barra, his one word was frustrating, saying it was a frustrating win. Tigersman, incremental, improving it one step at a time. Spannerman, clunky, our attack was clunky, ain't that the truth. Rach09, props, saying May and Pole were outstanding. Mac Tiger, ruthless. Lorenzo, defence. Peter A, better than a loss, that is. So true. Dirty Reds, his word was defence as well. NatMac78, needed. We needed a win. Plunder Monkey said adequate. We did enough to win. True. Jedi Tiger's word was bereft. Our attack was bereft of structure. Yep. Snake, their one word was unprofessional. Our halves are an issue. I should say written and published before all this stuff came out. Silius Sodus, who's new to the West Tigers podcast forum. I love the name. Ordinary. We're no longer poor. We're just ordinary now. Tiger Ton's word was scramble, and it was our scramble that won us the game. Mike's word was scrappy. Teddy S said a bludger. It was a bludger of a game. LFC Tiger, potential. Imagine what we could do if our halves clicked. And Tiger Town SFS's word was potato. Steve, you will like this. Are you sure you're not Tiger Town SFS? Because this could have been attributed to Steve Stretton. Potato. Jared Sutton is a potato. I'd like to use a harsher word, but I'm going to use potato. But that sounded like you, Steve.
I enjoy potatoes. I don't think I've ever enjoyed Jared Sutton.
Wouldn't use it in a negative connotation. The Richometer, awful, poor, average, good, great. A few people on the forum put in some submissions there. Barrow said average. Mac Tiger said average. Lorenzo said we're average plus. And Snake says average as well. 20 points to 4. Gary, it wasn't the prettiest of victories, but it was a game that I could aptly use my copyrighted one word, which is physicality. I thought there were times where we really smashed them, and that really made me very happy.
Yeah, I think I heard your word used around the room at West Ashfield yesterday during the ambush event, not just by you, but by many people who were there. My one word is should. I said last week that was a game that we should win, and I think that's how it turned out. We didn't play great football. Defensively, I thought we were quite strong, and you're right, we did absolutely smash them in defence on a number of occasions. But we came up against a very poor side yesterday, and that was a game that we should win. And years gone by, that's a game we lose. And for me, that's the most pleasing thing that came out of yesterday. There's still lots of improvement in this team to come. Whether that's with Lachlan Galvin or without him, there's lots of improvement in this side. And for me, to win a game ugly when you're playing poor and relying on your defence is something that we don't really see from this side when you look back over the past couple of years. So I'm very happy, not so much with the performance yesterday, but very happy to walk away from that game with a win, because despite that not being a great performances, I thought there were some outstanding performances from the majority of our players yesterday, and was probably let down a little bit by direction around our halves and from hooker.
Steve, that word that came up there a couple of times was scramble. Like, I thought that was a good aspect of our play, was that we almost went the whole game not conceding a point, which, you know, other nights didn't throw too much at us, and we did a good job of shutting down Ponga. But that was a good sign. I liked the way that we scrambled. I liked the way that we never really felt, it never looked like we were sort of overawed. We seemed to be one step ahead of them through the game.
Yeah, I agree, Joel. I also think it's a little bit more than that. I can remember a few years ago, and it might have been when Ivan Cleary was coaching, it might have been that way back then, that we were scrambling really well, but we kept saying we can't keep that up all season. Like, it was just scrambling that was keeping our defensive line intact. Like, our actual defensive structure was falling down, but we were scrambling and saving the day. We do scramble well at the moment when we need to, but we don't need to all game, because our actual defensive structure is holding fairly firm. Now, when we got when we got up against a team that had a red-hot attack, it fell apart a little bit. But it didn't fall apart for 80 minutes, right? It only fell apart momentarily either side of halfway. So I agree, yeah, our scramble is very good because they're playing for each other, absolutely playing for each other, and the coach. But it's more than that. The defensive systems they've put in place over the off-season are holding up for the most part. You want my word now?
Yeah, what have you got for one word?
So my word was just before I say my word, I want to go back to Silius Sotis of Life of Brian fame, right? So he said his word was ordinary, and I just want to put it to him that surely he should have come on and said that his word was the Tigers were a wabble, rather than ordinary, to keep with the Monty Python. You guys were just looking at me. You obviously haven't watched Life of Brian. All right, let's move on.
What a nerd.
My word was it didn't work. There is someone
out there be laughing, Steve.
Exactly.
There's someone listening to this
Troy.
Yeah.
Troy will be laughing his head off, Steve. It's all good.
My word was pleasing, and because from my perspective, I was pleased that we won ugly. We didn't nothing. We weren't clicking. We weren't finessing the game, but we still found a way to win and win quite well.
Eddie, it was one of those games where we've spoken about that a lot in the past. The West Tigers, through our struggling times, have sort of had to have our opposition not turn up. It's really hard to get a gauge, as the guys have said, as to where we're at on that performance, because the Knights were so ordinary, weren't they?
If you're a neutral, Joel, you would have turned it off, in the first half, or so, because it just never really reached any great heights. But it's all about context, like from where we're coming from as a club. So my word was mentality, because I'm starting to trust our mentality a little bit more. Not saying I'm all the way there, but anytime you say you're going up to Newcastle on Sunday afternoon, sell-out crowd, and you're going to win 20 points to 4, and they're going to score with 30 seconds to go, I'm going to give that a tick. Was the game ugly? Yes. Could we have been way better in attack? Yes. But I still think it's a step forward, and there's going to be steps back throughout the year. But I was impressed, like I think Joel referenced at the start. Some of their mistakes, they were amateur, but some of them were actually forced because we were getting up and smashing them. Fanua Pole and Samuel Afanu
hitting on the ball, Eddie.
Yeah. So, and just the reactions to some of that, they're the one percenters that you build a club on. And I don't want to keep referencing Canterbury, but that's how they built their club last year. It was because they were the second best defence in the league. Their attack was outside the top 8. So, yes, I reckon personally, Joel, we probably would have only beaten a few clubs yesterday, but the confidence we get from another win at an opposition home ground and the mentality we build from only giving up 4 points is something that will help.
The thing is, for the most part, our attack was really poor yesterday. But there were little glimpses of really nice attack. The Taruva try was a beautiful short side move that we didn't have a lot of space in, and everyone played their role perfectly. Buller created just a little bit of space for Toa. Toa took the ball, caught and drew the winger, and delivered that ball perfectly to create Taruva that space down the sideline. And I have to say that Taruva is one of the best finishers in the game, especially through contact. His ability to actually just bust straight through that cover defence sliding across, we haven't had a player like that in a long time. And that is why he's scoring so many tries for us, because we're not creating for him clear opportunities to get to the try line. He's having to do a lot of work after he gets the ball, and he's finishing. I can't remember him being bundled into touch once this year in a try-scoring situation, and he's scored 3 or 4 tries now where he's gone through that cover defence and just busted through them.
I was just going to say, Joel, like, Terrell May's the runaway player of the year on our awards thing, but, man, Taruva's been awesome. Yes. Like, could you name 2 or 3 better wingers in the comp at the moment than him? Like, yes, his finishing is awesome, but the work he does out of his own end, and I don't think he's made a mistake. Like, he might have made 1 or 2 mistakes in defence, but generally when they go to his side, he makes the right decision defensively. He's not making errors under the high ball. He's brave. He's an energizer bunny. Like every time we score, he's the first in. He is just an outstanding footballer, and I think the steal of the season. He might not be the buy of the season in terms of the big name, but for what value, I don't know what contract he's on, but it would be a huge one.
It's not massive.
But man, he's probably is he only 24 or 25? Lock him in for another 5 years. He's a gun.
He is.
His rookie year was the same year as Paul.
It's having a knock-on effect as well, Eddie. You know, like the post-contacts that some of our players are getting this season that were just non-existent. Like Twoll is a good example of someone who's getting post-contact matters that he never got before, you know, and we're getting that run on down the field because our collision is good and our driving through the tackle is good. And the reason we get that is because blokes like Taruva are starting us off on the right foot and getting that momentum driving down the field early on in the set. And therefore, the back end of the set, it's easier to get those post-contact because the opposition's pedaling backwards. So you're 100% right. He's having an incredible impact, but not just himself, on the whole team.
Yeah, that yardage coming out of our own end, Steve. Even Skelton yesterday, who didn't look great throughout the whole game and eventually went off with that hamstring injury. I think he played 50-something minutes and was up to 120 metres or something already at that point. Taruva coming out of his own end, he covers the ground and gets that defensive line so quickly and charges into it with a lot of power and gets a lot of post-contact metres himself. Those two providing the setup for our sets has made a massive, massive difference to how we're getting down the field this year. And then when you have a guy like May, who I've said many times, really builds into the game and gets better as the game goes on, it's just our forward pack yesterday, I thought, did a really good job against the weakened Newcastle pack, but a lot of it starts with those back two.
And I think we should recognise our centres as well, Toa and Dewey, who often will get that second run on, you know, that second play. Or Buller will jump in at dummy half and have a dart from dummy half for the second play. They're doing a lot of good work too. Not as obvious as Taruva and Skelton, but they're doing their job.
There's a lot of people who think that second runner is actually the most important one. So you have a look. A lot of teams will kick towards the winger they're most scared about on that first hit up, so they return that first one because then they're not doing the second one. So your point's very valid, Steve. Sorry, Joel.
No, that's okay, Gary. I was going to throw straight back to you because if you rolled the tapes back from the off-season, we were talking a lot about our left edge looks like a gun left edge that's going to score 1 million points, and our right edge was worrisome, and it's been the total opposite.
Well, and if you go back to the first game against the Knights, we predominantly attacked down the left side and predominantly attacked their right edge defence, and that has switched around. And for me, the reason that has switched around, if you have a look, Buller is more comfortable chiming into the attack on the right. And the try he scored himself, even Toa's try, Buller didn't touch the ball on that play, but the defence was obviously worried about him sniffing around the back of that play, and I think that created a bit of extra space for Toa to go through on that try as well. So Buller's gameplay and I think has gone to another level, especially over the last 2 weeks. The try he scored himself, I think, was really well set up by the team. The fact that we had Lockie Galvin and Jerome Luai on the long side, on the left-hand side, and then on that play, you have a look, Kalen Ponga's over there because that's where he thinks the ball's going. We went back to the right to Buller instead, and he put that grubber kick through, and there was no one there. That's a really smart play from the club, and it shows the development of Buller as a key man in your side. That also means in the future that teams are going to be worried about him doing that. So the fullback pushing right over onto that right side when you've got both Luai and Galvin on the same side of the field, they're going to be less likely to do that because they've got another threat now out on the right. So I thought he was absolutely outstanding yesterday.
We won all the three senior grades, the three top grades this weekend, which is probably the first time
Unusual.
in ages. Yeah. Apparently, Naden had a good game. Do you think he comes into play, Eddie? Would you be thinking about running Naden, presuming that we don't make changes to the halves and centres, that you'd replace Skelton with Naden on the wing?
Yeah, I think I would. Is Luke Lilly fit or not?
I think
He's
so.
fit.
Yeah.
I'd still probably go
He
the
scored
experience
yesterday.
because I liked what Naden. All the reports were pre-season. He was killing it. We saw him in a trial in the Indigenous game. He's still a strong carry. He's still quick, as we saw in that All-Star game. So I'd start him on the wing. But you've got Lilly as well. So we will miss Skelton, but there's a couple of options there.
What about you, Steve? What do you think? Would you go for the experience or maybe go for the sort of... I thought Luke played well last week when he got his chance, albeit he's still pretty raw.
Yeah, I think I would have said Luke Lilly from what I saw what I was watching last year, but the way Naden started the season, I think he'll get the nod tomorrow, and I think deservedly so. He'll get the wing spot.
Gary, Sione Fainu, he's flown under the radar, and a lot of people have sort of said he's a placeholder on that bench, but wow, very impressed again.
Fantastic yesterday. His footwork at the line. We talk about Buller's footwork at the line, and Sione's footwork's getting to not quite that level, but are very similar, and he's beating players with footwork. So I'm still a bit iffy. He makes some mistakes defensively, but that was a really strong game for him yesterday, and his minutes I think increased yesterday as well. So the last 2 weeks he's played a lot more minutes, and I think it's benefited his game being on the field a little bit longer because I thought he was highly impressive again yesterday.
Tim Sheen's got a lot of, especially in that second stint, he got some things wrong for sure. But one thing I think he did get right, Eddie, is that you do have to get to that 40 or 50 game sort of place to sometimes judge a player. Like sometimes after 5 games they're probably not going to make it, but a lot of guys need that 40 or 50 games just to sort of work out what NRL's about. And I think Sione could be one of those guys that does have a lengthy career.
No, he was impressive yesterday. He was powerful. And he's been a threat near the line a few games that I can remember in the past. And he scored that try again. So that's a sneaky asset to his game because some of our, I don't want to be negative tonight. Can they stop giving the ball to 12 near the line on the third or fourth play? Geez, it happens a lot. And the commentators get all excited. And I just think, please don't do it because it's going to be a 10-second play the ball. And anyway, but... I forgot what I was talking about now. But the guys...
The only person in the whole ground who thinks he's going to score is Gary, who takes him in his multi anytime try scorer.
No, that's...
He's paying about 5,000, Steve.
I was going to say just 1 point on the halves, Joel, and boys can chime in. I find that it's... And I don't want to put it in the context of what's happened today with Galvin, but I just... don't really find they have a lot of chemistry at the moment, Luai and Galvin, and maybe they don't off the field. But I was maddened by their performance at times. Luai running, I know he does that, running across the field a lot, and he's looking to drop someone underneath. And I thought there were a couple of signs that our left side was getting together when might have been Samuela cut back inside and Dewey did a couple of times. I thought this is a little bit more variation in it, but other times I thought, what are we doing here? But one rap I'll give for Luai, and his stats will say he hasn't set up a try all year, but I think it's the mentality. Again, he's just such a difference maker on the field in terms of how we defend, how connected we are, and sometimes the best way to judge a person or player, Joel, is what happens to an organisation when he leaves. Look at Penrith with Taruva and Luai gone, and look at the way they're defending this year and the energy they're playing with. I know it's early days, but I'll be interested to see how that goes, that Luai Galvin, because at the moment, Luai's almost taken the back seat and Lockie's going both sides and still doing some good things, but like you said, doing some really poor things yesterday, kicking out in a 7-tackle set twice. But will the dynamic change now? I'll be interested to see.
I think I've talked Eddie around, Gary.
Yeah. But for me, the biggest issue with both of them is that they're both predominantly left-hand side players.
Yeah.
Luai spent all his career there. Everything we saw from Lockie last year is his best football was on the left. And I think at times they're probably getting in each other's way a little bit. I really, we really need to improve. The big point I do want to take from what you said, Eddie, was his mentality. That you're exactly right. He sets the standards for this team. He is the driving force in how we defend. He drives line speed fairly well, and he absolutely gives his all in defence, and he expects everyone else around him to do the same. And I think we've seen improvement. We've had a few guys the last couple of years who at times you could question their effort defensively, and I think that's been a lot better this year. I like everyone knows the criticism I've thrown at Adam Dewey over some of his efforts in defence over the past couple of years. That has been much better this year, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's defending with Luai on that left edge, and that standard just won't be tolerated. And for me, he does a lot of work off the ball. I still think he's feeding the ball too much to players outside him. I want to see him engage the line a lot more, and not engage the ball, as you said, Eddie, where he's going across the field. Actually straighten and bite into the line a lot more than we've seen from him. I think that will improve his game a lot, and it will improve the game of the players around him. So I think that's still a work in process, but I'm very happy we've got him at our club. I'm not doubting what he's doing for our club at the moment. I don't think, he's played in all our wins and missed the game against the Broncos where we were flogged. So he's really making a difference. The only game that we've lost by more than 2 points, he wasn't playing in. And I know we're playing the Brisbane Broncos, and that's a lot different. But I think he drives this team. I think he's getting us around the park. I just think he's got a couple of things personally in his game that he still needs to improve on at the West Tigers. But I think that will come. I've got no doubt about that. And I'm very happy we've got him, and I'm sure Penrith would love to have him back with how their season has started.
I just think his value can be put down to what Eddie said. I think Eddie just captured it perfectly, how much Penrith miss him. I think it says it all, really. From a game day perspective, what I'd love to see more than anything from him, just add to his kit bag at the moment, is forming some sort of combination with Fainu on the left, because I think that's missing, and I think Fainu has had a slow start to the season partly because of that, though. Fainu's getting better, I think. But I'd love to see that combination starting to develop, just to give us another point of attack. Can I mention one other thing, Joel? And that's the one thing that's still worrying me a little bit, because Knights didn't throw a lot at us. Their line speed and defence was pretty poor. And they weren't putting a lot of pressure on us at the ruck. Our ruck was still really slow. I remember I was watching the game live at West Ashfield, and I was thinking to myself, geez, we look slow. We just look half a second off the pace, And I did look it up, and our play the ball again was slow. And I don't know why it was slow last weekend, because they weren't lying all over us in the ruck. There's no reason we should have been up and moving quicker. But I think that's an area that we need to look at, just to get moving a little quicker.
Yeah, I agree. And in defence as well, we still look at times a little susceptible around the ruck. If you spear back in behind the ruck, we look a little bit vulnerable, as has been exposed a couple of times. Just one thing on that left side attack, I don't know about you guys think, but just a little bit more depth. It just seems so flat on that side that you just don't have. And when it did work, as what Eddie said, was when Samuel Fainu came onto the ball with some pace. But it seems like Luai just sort of gets the ball and runs towards the sideline, and we need to sort of straighten and have a little bit more depth in our attack on that side, in my opinion, Gary.
Yeah, for me, there's a vast difference between the depth on the right and there is on the left. And again, I think that goes back to Muller preferring that right-hand side. Because a lot of the shape that we throw at club, at opposition, comes from Muller out the back. And he's not doing that as consistently on that left-hand side. And it's harder to do it on that left-hand side because there's a little bit less space there at the moment, because Galvin's quite often sweeping across to that left-hand side and playing that kind of sweeping role that Buller's playing on the right-hand side. So it's probably something that we do need to work on. I think Sam Fainu, that combination with Luai is already starting to improve. I think that there's been a clear effort the last 2 weeks to get him more involved in the game, and a lot of that has been Luai crabbing across field and then turning the ball back inside to Fainu, which if you have a look, it's a very Benji Marshall play. Going across field and then turning one of your second rowers back inside. Benji loved to do that. What he needs to work on now is Fainu hitting that crash ball that our second rowers used to also hit off Benji Marshall, because I think that's the part that's probably missing from his game. He hit one yesterday and he nearly busted right through. One short ball, it might have been from Galvin yesterday, though, I think, and he went very close to cutting straight through, because I still think that's Sam Fainu's go-to play, is that short ball at the line. He's very dangerous, but there is definitely a plan to get him more involved in the game at the moment.
Just two players, Joel, I wanted to give a rap. Pole, I think, with the football going to the next level, his game, like he's one of the, if you were to build a modern-day prop, unless you're a Payne Haas, he's the build that you want. He's got footwork, he's quick, he's powerful. I think he got 184 metres in 53 minutes. So
ridiculous.
That's really
a lot of post-contact meters as well. Eddie.
Yeah, so he's damaging. He's got his defensive issues at times, and then my mate Tareem Buller, I gave him man of the match yesterday. I just think he started to show so much class in attack, Gary, that wasn't evident last year. But this year he's doing what you always told him to do. He's just straightening that little bit more, and like you said, he's proving such a threat even when he's not getting the ball. And what I was impressed with, I think he's starting to find his voice a bit. Like he really owned that right-hand side yesterday. Whereas sometimes I think he's happy to sort of drift in and out, play second fiddle to the halves, but he really dominated that right-hand side. So well done, those two boys.
Yeah, I think he's taken his game to another level over the start of this season. I think you look back to that documentary where he made that effort to stop the rest of the team getting a punishment. I think that's part of the making of him as a leader in this side, to show that he's willing to stand up for the rest of the team. I think that's transferred to the start of his season. He's still getting caught out a little bit in defence and in the wrong spot in defence at times. So I think that's a little bit of an area he needs to work on. But attacking wise, I just about wouldn't swap him for anyone what he's provided the last couple of weeks in attack, and he's dangerous all the time,
including Reece Walsh.
Hey.
Oh no, we're agreeing on something else. Let's have a look at Richo's meter. I'm going to start finishing the post-game editions of the pod with a little look at Richo's meter. Average plus average, what the guys put on the West Tigers podcast forum. I'm going to go average with glimpses of good. What do you guys, how would you rate the performance on that meter of awful, poor, average, good or great? Steve?
No, from my perspective, we're still very much cemented in the average category. I don't think we're good yet. I think it'll come. I think we're trending in the right direction, but we're in every team. And if you go back to that conversation or that Richo had about that, he said, what were the words? It was awful, bad, then average, or something like that, right? And that took 2-3 seasons. But I think we've gone from awful to average pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I think we've actually made great gains, but I think we're definitely still cemented in average.
Average, Gary?
Yeah, I have to agree with Steve. I've got us average, not just that game on the weekend, but if you have a look at it, season sitting 50-50, 3 wins, 3 losses. I don't think you get any more than the definition of average at that point. Sitting in 7th on the table, you're one spot above the halfway mark. Yeah, spot on average for me, both yesterday and for the season as a whole.
Eddie, after 6 games, you watch plenty of football. Like at that average, sort of basically, I guess you could extrapolate that out and say, when you look at that big chunk of mid-table teams, I think a lot of the time we've probably got a pretty good chance of it being a 50-50 proposition, if that makes sense. There's a whole bunch of teams that are mid-table-y sort of sides.
Well, I don't want to jump into midweek pod mode and go through Eddie's gambling, Joel, but I will say we are $1.40 this week, and that is the shortest price we've been in years. I know we're playing Parramatta, but it's clear we are more respected as a team.
How many times were we favourites last year?
Yeah, we weren't favourite once last year. So I predicted we'd come 14th, and I still don't think I'm not willing to go higher on that because the sides we've beaten so far are the three favourites for the wooden spoon. Parramatta's a clear favourite for it. Newcastle and the Dolphins are the next favourites in the line. Yes, we've got room to grow, but we've also got a thin squad. And with this thing happening with Galvin, I can't say that's going to help. I'm hoping it's not going to be a hindrance, but it's definitely not a help what's going on. So I want to see more. I think the next month, Joel, after Parramatta, I think we'll win this week and get to 4-3. But I think it's Cronulla, the Dragons, the Storm, and Souths. So that's 4 pretty good sides, I reckon. That's 4 sides. At least 3 of them could be in the 8. I think we'll know a lot more in terms of whether we really can sustain a stretch towards the 8 or whether it'll just be finishing outside the bottom few.
For me, a big thing this year is you look at a lot of games last year and you went along to them or you watched them and you're thinking, yeah, we're not going to win today. And that was before the game. Having a look at the competition this year, I think it's a lot more of an even competition. I think there's 3 or 4 sides that I look at that I don't think we're much of a chance of beating on the day. But there was 10 of those last year, so for me that's the big improvement. I get to watch the team play now, and the majority of the weeks you think you're a decent chance of winning, and I don't think we've had that for a long time.
Yeah, there's consistency in performance, right? Like last year we'd have gone to Newcastle, they'd have played terribly, and we'd have played worse. And we'd have said, how did we lose that game? Newcastle were terrible. That's what would have happened. But now we can start to be a little bit confident that if the team that we're playing play poorly, we're going to get them.
Consistency is the
our effort is going to be consistent.
Yeah, and that's the foundation that you build on. Is that we've been so wildly inconsistent, we've never been able to set any platform over the last 4 or 5 years. Where, if we have a year where we're average and mid-table and respectable and maybe we push for the 8, but we certainly finish around that point. I think we're all going to say, that was pretty good. That was a good place to build off.
Steve and Nick.
And then, hang on, I want to clarify that point. And then you don't mess around with the roster too much. You don't have a big revolution and you don't change it. You just improve the 2 or 3 spots that you want to improve. Then you can go.
So you're saying like something crazy like putting Dewey at 5'8".
Sorry, Gary, what were you saying?
Yeah, the only ones that won't be happy with us just missing out on the 8 will be Steve and Nick, because for them it's top 8 or bust.
I just want to say one thing that you guys always forget is that I get editing rights. So what I choose to be in or out is up to me. Thank you, guys. It's been a long one, but productive, I think.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, boys.